Welcome. This is a tutorial video to assess and enhance the Catholic identity of your school or organization. The Enhancing Catholic School Identity Project, or ECSIP, is carried out by a cooperation between the Catholic University of Leuven and the Catholic Education Commission of Victoria in Australia, along with other Belgian, Australian and international partners. The ECSIP methodology explores the Catholic identity of your school through the use of 3 scientific measuring instruments, each with its own type of graphs. We will discuss the graphs of the following 3 typological models: the so-called post-critical belief scale, the Victoria scale, and the Melbourne scale. Reading graphs like these might seem difficult at first sight, but once you know the basics, it's not so difficult at all. Let's start with the graphs of the PCB scale. These all have a light blue background color. Here you see the scale means graph. The y-axis on the left is scaled according to the Likert scale response options used in the surveys. From number 1, I strongly disagree, to 7, I strongly agree. The white line at number 4 is the turning point from rejection to approval. Around the white line lies a zone of doubt. The further the score raises up above the white line, the more respondents tend to agree with the belief style in question. The further the score lies beneath the white line, the more the respondents disagree with the belief style. At the bottom, you see the 4 cognitive belief styles: literal belief, external critique, relativism, and post-critical belief. To learn more about the content of the belief styles, watch the YouTube video that explains the PCB scale. In the upper right corner, you see the number of people this graph represents. In this case, we see the results of 88 respondents who participated in the PCB scale. Finally, we see the mean scale scores of these 88 respondents. These predict the tendencies in the population as a whole. When interpreting the results, it is important to examine the consistency between the scores and to be aware of the relations between them. It is necessary to interpret the pattern of the scores as a whole, instead of reading the numbers one by one. The meaning of a score is influenced by the other scores as well. Instead of putting people in boxes, every respondent gives a score for every type and contributes to the entire pattern. Merging the scores of a whole group results in a constellation of tendencies. The art is to interpret these as a whole. To every scale means graph belongs a second graph that breaks down the scores in percentages of approval and disapproval. Because of the colors, this percentage graph also has been nicknamed the traffic light graph. Again, we see the 4 cognitive belief styles and the number of respondents. The y-axis has transformed into percentages from 0 to 100. The respondents are arranged in 5 categories with a distinctive color, as explained in the legend at the top. The 7 response options in the Likert scale are reduced to 5 categories in the percentage graph. This is how they correspond. The percentage breakdown on the right is an elaboration of the mean scores on the left. It shows how the answers are spread and allows us to see the percentage of respondents who agree or disagree with each of the 4 belief styles. Also, this graph makes clear how respondents with different degrees of conviction can simultaneously support or reject multiple belief styles. How do we read this percentage graph in conjunction with the scale means graph? The mean score of the 88 respondents on, for example, post-critical belief in the left graph is 5.9 on a scale from 1 to 7. On the right, we see that 47.6% of the 88 respondents strongly agree with post-critical belief, 41.5% agree, 8% neither agree nor disagree, and 2.9% disagree. These results make clear that a majority of the respondents prefer a symbolically mediated post-critical belief rather than a literal belief. At the same time, a small majority leans to relativism, which also handles religion in an open and interpretive way, but from a non-believing point of view. However, in this school, there is almost no support basis for strong criticism of religion. The overall pattern is that of a faith-filled school community that desires to foster a clearly Catholic learning and living environment that should be open, hospitable and supportive, and eager to receive and integrate also people with different identities and views, cultures and faiths. This concludes the PCB scale. Let's move on to the next scale. The Victoria scale. These graphs all have a light green background color. This is the scale means graph. Again, we see the y-axis with numbers from 1 to 7, from I strongly disagree to I strongly agree. The dividing line at 4 is the turning point from rejection to approval. At the top, we see the 4 school types of the Victoria Scale: monologue school, dialogue school, colorful school, and colorless school. If you want to learn more about the content of these school types, watch the YouTube video that explains the Victoria Scale. Next, in the bottom right corner, the number of respondents is displayed. Unlike the PCB scale, however, the bars start at the dividing line in the middle. The upward bars indicate that on the whole people agree, while the downward bars signify that on the whole people disagree. The further a score goes up, the more the respondents are in agreement. The further a score drops beneath the dividing line, the more they voice their disagreement. Another difference with the PCB scale is the dual measurement level used by the Victoria Scale. The scores on the factual level are displayed in blue. The bars that show the scores on the normative level are green. The blue bars indicate how the school's Catholic identity takes shape today. They point at the current practice through the eyes of the respondents. The green bars indicate their ideal school, or the school of their dreams. The comparison between these two measurement levels reveals interesting information. Also, this scale means graph is accompanied by a percentage breakdown graph. These two types of graphs complement each other by showing the same data of the same group of respondents, but in a different way. While the scale means graph summarizes the general tendencies, the percentage graph displays the underlying scores in more detail, namely their spread and overlap. Both graphs are each other's counterparts and need to be studied together. In fact, your eyes should move from one graph to the other and back again. Let's take a closer look at the results of, for example, the dialogue school. The blue bar with a score of 5.35 out of 7 corresponds to the first column of percentages, and the green bar with a score of 5.71 out of 7 corresponds to the second column. Thus, we see an increase from the factual to the normative level. These respondents want the dialogue school model to grow. The percentage breakdown graph reveals by how much percent the support basis increases, with 9.7% in this case. You can easily calculate this or simply estimate it based on the horizontal grid lines that are drawn every 10%. The upswing of the dialogue school coincides with a decrease in the support for the monologue school. This points to the desire of most of the respondents to evolve from a monological to a dialogical school identity. At the same time, we see a clear rejection of the two secularized school types, the colorful school and the colorless school. The third scale is the MELBOURNE scale. These graphs all have a light brown background color. Again, this is the scale means graph. On the left is the y-axis with the response options 1 to 7. The dividing line at number 4 is the turning point. At the top are the 5 school types of the MELBOURNE scale: secularization, reconfessionalization, Christian values education, recontextualization, and confessionality. If you want to learn more about the content of the school types, watch the YouTube video that explains the MELBOURNE scale. Next, in the right corner, the number of respondents is displayed. Finally, we see the average scores. These sample statistics predict the tendencies in the population taken as a whole. The blue and green colored bars again represent the factual level, or current practice, and the normative level, or ideal school. Notice, however, that the school type of confessionality cannot have a score on the normative level. This results in an opening on the right-hand side of the graph. Also, with this scale means graph belongs a corresponding percentage breakdown graph. Notice how the bars on the left and percentage columns on the right correspond, on the factual level and the normative level. Let's take a closer look at the results of, for example, recontextualization. The blue bar with a score of 5.51 out of 7 corresponds with the first column of percentages. The green bar with a score of 5.9 out of 7 corresponds with the second column. We see an increase between the factual and the normative level. This means that most of the respondents desire a Catholic identity that is integrated in the lived context of people today. The small positive score on reconfessionalization reveals that the respondents don't wish to let go of certain valuable aspects of their faith tradition. Not surprisingly, these people don't want their school to secularize or lose its Catholic character. What is more, they have lost confidence in a simplistic connection between faith and values because they understand that this results in a reduction and weakening of Catholic identity. Thank you for viewing this tutorial. For more information, surf to schoolidentity.net and check out the other ECSIP manuals and tutorial videos.